I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war.
All right, everybody, today on the podcast, we have the one and only Sergeant, Captain,
Keep going.
Corporal,
Nope.
General,
Never. No.
Jeff Morris on the podcast today, guys. Let's see. There we go. That's so cool. Huh? We got that set up. But no, really special guest because I've been trying to get you on for a while, but you've been so busy, which is really good. But I wanted to introduce you, obviously. Let's get our phones off. Introduce you to the podcast, to the people who are watching, people who are listening. This thing has actually grown pretty good. We've been checking the analytics, and we're getting downloads in Sweden, like on Spotify and iTunes.
No shit.
I think it's
Hell yeah.
well, we had be honest, one download. Well, I know who it is,
But you can still say it.
I have a friend over there, and he's been following me. I know it's him because I'm like, who the hell else would know? You know what I mean? But it's pretty cool because we got them all over now. Like it's all over the world. We have a bunch of downloads, right? So it's actually moving, and this movement is working. So it's pretty cool. But the reason why I want to get you on is because we have a lot of exciting things going on right now in UVO. Let's not forget Alan, who we just talked about. He gave me a lecture on how to introduce him. Alan, we missed you like 10 minutes in the last one.
I know, man.
Like on the last one, 10 minutes. But Alan, obviously, right here on the podcast.
Pleasure.
Co-host. But today, let's go over, before we get into what your role is here in the business at UVO, let's talk about you for a minute because we have nobody like you on the team. Like, do we even have any other veterans on the team?
No.
We don't. Yeah, and we got like 16, 17 people on the team right now. So that's pretty cool, right?
One and only.
One and only. But let's talk about you. So it's not sergeant. What is it? What was your ranking in there?
My official title before I retired was Chief Master Sergeant.
Chief Master Sergeant.
I like that.
Isn't that the Chief Master Sergeant from Halo? Isn't that the guy's? I think he is.
Master Chief. Master Chief. There
Master
you go.
Chief. There
I'd have to ask my son, but I think you're right.
My son's into that.
Yeah.
But dude, that's pretty cool. So how long did it take you to get to that point? I mean, that's a long time to get there, right?
To get to that level, it took about 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about commitment.
Dedication, man. Yeah, thank you, dude. That's a big
thanks,
deal.
man.
Yeah. That's proper, right, to thank a veteran?
It is. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Have you guys ever seen that show, Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I've seen a little bit of it.
Yeah, a little
There's
bit.
an episode on that. It's so funny. I think it's where Larry David doesn't thank the guy and he gets super offended. It's super funny. But you don't get offended, right? If nobody thanks you for your service?
No, because it's not it was a privilege for me to serve, and there's still people that don't appreciate the flag, they don't appreciate all that stuff, and so I have no expectations of that. So when I get it, it's just great. I feel it. I'm very grateful, but I don't have any expectations of it.
Yeah. 22 years. I think last time on the podcast I said you were 50, and I don't think you're 50.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, no. No, definitely not. Now, let me clarify. So it took me 22 years to reach that rank, but I spent a total of 27 years in the Air Force.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Did you ever go on any planes or like jets?
Plenty.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my first 7 years in the Air Force, I was in a mobility flight, and we traveled all over the world. So, yeah, I was constantly going and taking the Marines and the Army wherever they needed to go because, when they need to go somewhere, they called the Air Force, and we would pick them up and take
Did you ever go on like the F1s and stuff, like fly with a fighter pilot?
No. Thought about it, but thank goodness.
I've seen those videos.
Yeah.
Dude, that
They're
looks
insane.
like hell. I don't know you got to be like a different breed of person to be able to handle those forces, right? The G forces.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not. I get motion sick way too easy, so it's not for me.
Yeah. So before you got in the military, though, I mean, what did you do? What was your profession? Did you start? You started when you were quite young. I mean, I imagine was it right out of high school when you got into it?
No. So I started working when I was like 13, 14. I was, like most of you, I was hustling, working, trying to make money, doing anything to make money.
Yeah.
And then got my first official job when I hit 16 and started in the busboy, and then
we all did that.
We all did. Yeah, we all did.
You got to break into the industry somehow, right? So, Yeah, that's what I did. So I did that for a while. And then, so when I graduated high school, that was a busy year for me because I finished high school, had a baby, and got married all in a matter of about 4 months' time.
Wow, right out of high school.
Right out of high school, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Are you guys currently married?
Yeah, I'm still, yeah.
It's wow.
Same woman.
Wow. Commitment.
You don't hear that too often, right?
Oh, you
Right?
don't. Well, dude, good job on that
Hell
one.
yeah.
Thanks.
And we love your wife too. Like she's a
Thanks, man.
badass.
I married up, man. I got lucky, and yeah.
Yeah, she's a badass.
Yeah.
Okay, but so let's go into what got you into, before we go into the real estate thing, the military. I mean, was it just because you had no direction? I mean, what kind of happened?
So for me, honestly, it was I needed a way to provide for my family. You know, I had one trait that was really working for me, which was I'm a hard worker. But that only gets you so far when you're making $6.49 an hour.
Yeah.
And, when you're trying to raise a baby and still have a family, money wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford insurance. And I was like, all right, this is just, not working.
Yeah.
So I made the decision to join the military.
Why did you join the Air Force and not the other ones? Was there a reason why? Do you have anybody that influenced you, or?
Interestingly enough, there was a couple reasons. So initially out of high school, while I was in high school, I almost joined the Army Reserves, and I was literally like this close from signing the dotted line. And the doctor, for us males, you go through a physical, and the doctor says, turn your head and cough, right? And when I did, he's like,
Got an
uh-oh.
erection? Slide that in there.
No. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the kind of way I look at it, I had a hernia and I didn't know it.
Oh, shit.
So it was through grace, God's grace, that prevented me from joining the Army Reserve, and because it wasn't just a few months after that Desert Storm kicked off, and I would have been doing a job not so fun in the Army.
Yeah.
So that kind of that's where that initially started, and then it really got me thinking about military. So when I married my wife, her dad, my father-in-law, was in the Army. So he retired from the Army right before we got married. So I kind of pressed him, wanted to know, hey, what about it? Can you tell me, should I join? What branch? And he basically steered me away from the Army, which I found later in my career that most Army parents do the exact same thing. And my dad was a Marine, but it was well before I was born.
Yeah.
And my dad kind of joked with me about the Marines that one of their mottos, I think it still kind of applies today, but if they wanted you to have a family, they'd issued you one.
Oh, wow.
So I realized, okay, I've already got a family, so that's not. I thought about being a Marine. I really was intrigued with that, and definitely loved the uniform. But after my dad told me that, I said, okay, maybe let's look at something else.
Yeah.
And then when I was working in Texas, this guy that had worked with me just got out of the Air Force, spent 4 years in, so I just hounded him every single day. Tell me about it. And I was focused on doing that. I went and had the hernia surgery, got that repaired, healed up, and then signed up and joined the Air Force.
There we go.
Yep.
There we go. I love those things. I got to get used to the buttons because they're not titled, so I got to memorize them. So I'll be using them a lot. Dude, that's crazy because you started there and you were there for 27 years.
Right.
So did you have any other jobs in between? Do you go part-time in that? I mean, how does that work?
You can. I didn't. I went into active duty, so I was full-time. And here's the funny thing, and I told this story probably 100 times in my career because I was in recruiting for a long time. And but I only had intentions of staying in the Air Force for 4 years. Literally. So for the first 3 years I was in, I was always like, hey, I'm the four and out.
Yeah.
And about the 3-year point, they asked me, hey, decision time. Do you want to stay? Do you want to go? And I was humbled pretty quick on how much money I could make and what I could get out in the civilian world versus what kind of benefits and pay I was getting in the Air Force. Yeah. And I quickly decided to stay. And once I made that decision, there was no turning back. I just kind of, all right, put head forward. I'm going to stay as long as I can.
Yeah.
Yep.
27 years later, man. Jeez, that's cool.
It's awesome, man.
So when you were in there, I mean, when did you start doing recruiting, and what did you do before that? Like when you first started, what did they have you do?
So my first 7 years, I was in what's called the aerial port, and I loaded, unloaded all the cargo planes. So all the big heavy planes that you see, the C-5, C-140, 141s, they no longer fly anymore, and then the C-17s. And so I would load them up, tie everything down, and make sure that everything was placed in there properly so it was weighted and balanced properly, the plane wouldn't crash. And then wherever they would go, take it, unload it as well. That was my biggest job for first 7 years. And so kind of what made me shift to get out of that and jump into recruiting is because doing that for 7 years, I was in a mobility program for 4 years, and I was what's called temporary duty, TDY, about 250 days out of the year for like 4 years straight. And it's pretty difficult to raise a family and keep a relationship together when you're gone more days out of the year than you are home. And so after about 4 years of doing that, opportunity came up, and I said, okay, I've got to give something else. Relationship was having major issues, right? Because just it's hard. You're not there. And so I made the decision to give this recruiting thing a try, and got accepted into that and fell in love with it, man. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best job ever. And
so what did you do? Did you have to go to high schools? Were you setting up the booths? Is that kind of what you guys were doing?
so, yeah, for the Air Force, when you come in and become a recruiter, that's how everyone starts out. You recruit high school kids and college graduates or even college attendees. But everyone starts out recruiting the high school kids. So, yeah, we're hitting the high schools. I was in the high schools basically every day, talking to
In the lunchroom, a little setup.
always in the lunchroom. Yeah,
I remember that.
Yep.
I remember that too.
Yeah, dude.
We always got hit up every day.
Right.
I was gonna join.
Yep.
I was gonna join the Marine Corps. I have some military on my mom's side of the family, and then my dad's in Mexico as well. My grandpa in Mexico was in the military for like 40 years.
Wow.
And he traveled all over, and he did his thing. But I was intrigued because I was in a similar situation where I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life, and I had like 20 jobs before I turned 18, 20 or 30 jobs, ton of jobs, right? So getting a job was not an issue. Keeping the job was a problem, right? I was a
Right.
terrible employee.
Right.
I would either quit, or I think I got fired twice out of all those jobs. I quit most of them, some on the same day. I'm like, not for me, I'm out, right? So I knew it. For me, I looked at it like discipline was my problem, and I'm like, what should I do, man? Maybe I need more discipline. Maybe I should do the military. And I signed up with a couple friends, and we went to the Marine Corps.
Right.
And, I signed up, I did the ASVAB, did all that stuff, had my physical set up, and I can't remember what company I was in. I think it was Fox Company and something else. I had my ship out date. I was going to go to boot camp, and I was doing PT every week with them. And then before I was going to go, like a month before, I tried my gunnery sergeant who was there, tried to get me a waiver for my tattoo on my neck, because I got it when I was 16. And I guess, I don't know if it's still the same, but back then you couldn't have any tattoos above the collar.
Right.
And so they came back and they said no. And I'm like, this is like 2007, like the war's going on. Are you going to tell me no, really? Like, that's crazy, right?
It's called standards.
Yeah, you had a standard. I didn't meet the standard. And so I'm like, dude, like that, what the hell am I going to do now? And the gunnery sergeant was funny because he's like, hey, we have two options, and I'll pay half if you decide to do laser removal. And I said, okay, let me go and check. So I went to get pricing on it. I went to have the people look at it. They told me the black pigment would come out like after the first or second round, but the red pigment, they said, was very hard to get out, and it would take like 7 to 8 months. And I'm like, what? That long? And they said, yeah, because you can't come every week. You got to come like every month, every other month. So I went back to the gunnery sergeant, and I said, dude, this is where I'm at. And he's like, okay, option 2. I can give you morphine, and we can belt sand it off.
Great idea, right? Great idea.
I'm like, all right, bye. Bye, I'm out. And so I didn't go.
Marine
Some
mentality.
of my friends who went, they did their thing, and I ran into them after they served their first 4 or 5, 6 years, and it was cool, but I was happy that I didn't go, because that sparked this entrepreneurial journey, which was like, okay, military is not going to work. Having a job is not going to work. I'm going to have to figure out something for myself. And I started to explore other options. I went and sold cars, opened a car lot after 6 months, and I started just dabbling heavy into being self-employed and starting my own companies. And I'm really happy I did that. And that was, 15 years ago. I'm not too old, but so I've been doing this 15 years, self-employed, and I love it. There's no other way I'd choose to live my life, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I love real estate, because it gives you the same freedom, you know. But your recruiting you did for 20 years. 20 years.
Right.
That is huge. That's a big deal.
Dude, it's huge.
Yeah.
Long time. Yeah.
You've
Long
been in the
time.
military almost as long as Alan's been on Earth. I mean,
Pretty close.
Pretty close. I'm 30.
Close. You're 30.
I'm 30, man. Woof.
it's a long time.
It's a long time. A lot of life left to live, man.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm only, a third way through.
Third
at
way.
least.
So you're stopping yourself at 90?
Shit.
Yeah, if Elon comes out with all these different things, the whole what do they call it? The Neuralink. You never know what that could do.
Oh, it's true. We'll be hitting 100 all day long.
Yeah, probably.
There you go.
We'll see what happens. But let's talk about what you do here, because I mean, I'm sure you have a ton of stories, and we'll probably get into that with the military. But right now, I mean, you've been doing real estate for a while now, and you're doing really good. You're really busy, which is awesome. But you have another role here in the company that's not just selling and helping people buy houses. You have been somebody who's expressed to us multiple times, and we've expressed it to you that the feeling is mutual. That we feel like, you're, I would say, one of the most disciplined leaders that we know, especially on the team. And so there's definitely a lot of room. I feel like in real estate when it comes to leadership, and in our business also. So when we talked about this a while ago, we said, hey man, we have a team and we love to bring on agents. Like, that's something we really love to do. The one thing that Alan and I realize is one of our pitfalls is we don't have a lot of time for newer agents, right? So this is, we have 15 minutes left on this one, so we're going to go through it. But what I was trying to get to was we don't have a lot of time for new agents, right?
Yeah, at first we weren't actually bringing on board any new agents at all. But now, talking to Jeff and putting together that program together with him, the mentor-mentee program, we're able to actually offer that now for brand new agents as well.
It's huge too.
It's huge, man.
Because before we would take on newer agents, and they took a lot of time, and that's awesome. That's what we're here to do, to give them the time. But we knew that, well, there's a standard, like you talked about, the standards, that we want to make sure we're able to hit with these guys and keep them at that standard, and a lot of the times with newer agents, they don't really know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis if they don't have clientele and SOI and years of business where they've established clients and people to help out. And so we're like, well, we don't want to close the door on anybody. Like, if they're a good fit for the team and they have the work ethic, and if they have the drive and the self-motivation, which is really important in this industry, you got to be self-motivated, right? And you have to have discipline, right? Got to make sure you can get up in the morning and not sleep until 4:30, right? One of the agents in the team, they did that. Don't do that. So what I'm getting to is, when we talked about it, Alan and I were like, who would be the best person who could help, guide these newer agents and stay disciplined and give them those things that Alan and I just can't do. And we thought about you. And the funny thing was, the owner of the company, RP, approached you about doing it for him. So Jeff is giving this off, all these mixed signals to everybody that he's a leader.
He's a true leader. He
can help you, and he can help newer agents. There's an opportunity there, and we jumped on it. We got some people on the team now, and I feel like they're making some progress for sure.
Right.
Not just with real estate, but just in life, because you have all these skills and traits that you developed over time from the military that I feel like is very important for an entrepreneur. Really important for an entrepreneur.
Well, you have somebody there to literally hold you by hand, like from the beginning to the end. Because I know when you're a brand new agent, you're not sure what you're doing. You don't know the contracts. You don't have your SOI. You don't have any leads coming. You don't have anything really. You're just you get your test and you're like, shit, what do I do now?
Yeah. What's next?
What's next?
Right.
You have no idea. You have no schedule. Nobody told you accountable. And your typical brokerage will just, they want numbers at the end of the day. And eventually some of them will make it and most of them won't. But yeah, the program that we've put together is, we have it all dialed in to the point where, right when you do get on board, you can hit the ground running. We put together a schedule for you, hold you accountable, show you exactly what it takes to become successful.
It's all about giving them the foundation.
Bingo.
That's what it's about.
Exactly.
Coming in this industry, you need that foundation, and that's the biggest thing of the program, right? Is giving them those basics, and in any sport, right? They practice more, just like the Super Bowl was just recently, right? They spend more time, probably like 4 times the amount of game time they spend practicing, right? So it's all about practicing, preparation, and having that foundation ahead of time.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
And when you're a newer agent, you are lost. Like, even when it comes to, okay, I passed my test, I chose the brokerage to go with, I come into the brokerage, I get my paperwork, what do I do now? Like, I didn't get that. I didn't know what the hell to do. I didn't know how to get my key box set up. I didn't know how to get the MLS stuff set up. Like, there was no guidance on that, right? And so having somebody here like you who can show them, hey, no, you can't start selling houses now. You got to be able to get into the house. Here's what you got to do.
Right.
That's really valuable, and I feel like it's overlooked with a lot of brokerages and teams.
Yeah, for sure.
So I love that we have that opportunity right now. And I mean, really, like, you hit on it perfectly, man. Like, when you talk about newer agents, they do kind of slip through the cracks with these big companies that have 100, 200, 300 agents. They're focusing on the ones who are producing, but there's so many people there who have that ability. They just haven't been shown. They don't have the right leadership, and so I feel very, very blessed to have you on the team.
Thank you.
Likewise, man.
Yeah, I mean, number one, to be able to show these guys and also help Alan and I, because Alan and I are kind of nuts, right?
Just a little bit.
Right? I mean, maybe me more than Alan.
Yeah, but, most definitely on that one. I'm nuts, but this guy here.
Yeah.
But,
different levels.
Yeah,
different levels for sure.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I got to keep checking the thing. Daniel, I'm going to kill him after this because he didn't remove the. Anyways, yeah. So, but no, that's important. I did want to talk about this podcast. That's number one, what it's for. Obviously, we want to highlight and showcase entrepreneurs and their journeys and their stories. You have an amazing one. I mean, military background, 27 years. I've never met somebody. I didn't meet my grandfather either. He passed away before I was born, but. I never met somebody with that much experience in the military, and for you to be able to take that and kind of show younger people who are getting into it, these are the kind of things that you need to do to be successful.
Right.
And you've went through that. The discipline it takes to be an entrepreneur. The skills and the mindset and the mental strength you have to have, right, to be able to go through what's challenging. And real estate is very challenging, right? There's a lot of shit in real estate that you got to deal with, and a lot of companies and brokerages and leaders, they don't really prepare you for that, right?
True.
So I'm happy that they have somebody like you to lean on, to do that.
Yeah.
But going back to the whole program, I mean, the mentor-mentee, like, we had a ton of people hit us up, Alan and I, over the last 6-7 months when we've been recruiting here. And we were turning a lot of people down if they were brand new agents, right? So let's talk about who we're looking for, because I feel like it is those people, and some of them might not even be doing real estate right now. They might be thinking about it.
Right.
Or they might just have signed up to school, or they might be just graduating from school, right? So if that is where you are and you're in that situation, would you recommend them call you?
Of course.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
Of course.
We're trying to put a YouTube ad together. Right now. All right. It's true.
Absolutely. It is true.
It's
I
true.
mean, there's something about going on a team, right? I think it's great because this industry, it's so complex. There's so much to learn, and not having a team behind you that can help guide you, give you that foundation, and get you started properly. I like to use what Tony Robbins says. Take the decades, into days. Compress those decades of experience from other people, everybody else, and put it into days. That way, you can take the hard road and you can spend years and figure it out yourself, or you can take the collective, experience from everybody else and have a good program, get started on that, and you'll be on your way to success much, much quicker.
Yeah. I saw the program too. I mean, obviously we see it, the one that you're putting together, the one that you put together, and we talked about this last one because we're making some tweaks to it. But I look at that every time I tell Alan, like, man, if I was starting in real estate, I would be like, I feel almost like cheated out to a certain extent that I didn't get that. And I told you this, like, I wish I had something like this when I first started, and again, the agents who are new and they haven't got into it yet, they don't know what we're talking about because they don't know what it's like to go to a brokerage and not really get that guidance and that support that you need in order to be successful. And some people need their hands held through the process,
Well, especially on the begining too.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was starting off, big brokerage and everything, first year and a half on my own, no team, no nothing, no support. Yeah, you have the brokerage there, but you don't have anybody there to actually hold you accountable, teach you how to become successful. And I remember just walking around, wondering, like, what the hell do I do?
Yeah.
Who do I call? Mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle?
Right.
And I remember doing that for month after month after month, just kind of like scratching my head going, so when am I going to get a deal? Like, well, when do I actually make any money? Like, what do I do? I'm coming to work. I'm going through the motions. And, for me personally, like, it took I needed to be on a team to have that structure in place to learn, in an environment where you're around like-minded people. Like you mentioned, take decades of work that people, have gone through and learned, and apply that to your work, instead of just trying to figure it all out. Too many of us get caught up in, I'll figure it out. Weeks go by, months go by, you haven't really made any progress at all. So yeah, getting on a team definitely is the way to go, and having somebody there hold you accountable, which is exactly what we do, and Jeff does. That's what we're all about.
Right.
That's awesome.
I think that's why so many people that they fail in the business is because they're so used to corporate America, where they get told what time they have to be at work, what time they can go to lunch, right? They have someone that's directing them and telling them, right? Even though they may complain, oh, no, I want to be an entrepreneur, doing it myself. Okay, great. Then they get into, let's say, real estate, and now they have all this freedom. There's no one telling them, and what happens? All of a sudden, it's like they don't know what to do. They sleep all day, or then they come in, and then, right, next thing you know, they're like, oh, I can't deal with this stuff, and they're done.
It's been 5 months. They haven't gotten paid yet.
Yeah.
Right.
We've seen that happen, and there's a discipline there that's needed in order to be self-employed. And when you're an agent, you're self-employed, right?
Right.
You can be with a brokerage, you can be in a team, but if you're not putting in that work that's required in order to be successful as somebody who's self-employed, you're not gonna make money.
You got to treat it as an actual job, as an actual. It's a career. You have to treat it as a job, and you have to stay consistent. You can't just be like, hey, I'll go to work one day and one day I won't. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It's like
all up here to the mindset.
It's all in the mindset. Same thing with the gym too. You can't go one day and then expect to be in shape.
Right.
You got to go and go and go. You got to build that up.
Yeah.
Same thing with real estate too. You have to stay consistent.
It's like Tony Robbins said, you got to work that muscle.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just work at one time and say, oh, I'm strong. No.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you didn't go into truck driving. I didn't think you were gonna get that joke when I sent it to you.
Oh, no.
I didn't know you were well aware of what that meant.
Yes. I am. I'm well versed in life. I've been around the block and been exposed to a lot in my life. Yes.
That's good. That's good. So if you don't know, I sent him a message out of nowhere.
Yeah.
There's a picture of a sticker that said "No lot lizards," right? And if you guys don't know what lot lizards are, it's pretty much whatever they are. The prostitutes over at the truck stops, right?
Correct. Right.
I was joking with Jeff and I sent it to him, and he responded, "Ha ha!" And then he told me in person, he's like, "Wait." And I'm like, I know what that is. And you're like, oh, I know what that is too. And he told me a story, but it's pretty funny. And it had nothing to do with you, just to clarify.
Right. No,
but I'm happy he didn't go.
But my dad was a truck driver, so I'm
Yeah.
well aware of exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah,
So used to be, yeah.
That's cool, man. So you're here in Utah. How the hell did you end up in Utah?
Well, again, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
Right? And to go back to your previous story about, hey, you were this close to joining the Marines and something came up and you didn't, and now look at you, right? You look back and you're like so happy. Same thing with me. I'm so happy that I didn't join the Army Reserves. I wouldn't be who I am today, had that happen. So late in my career, I was fortunate enough to get an assignment at Hill Air Force Base and spent 3 years up there and just fell in love with the state. Really fell in love with the state. My wife and I did. And my two sons, so when I had another assignment that took me away from Utah and we went to Alabama for a while, my two sons stayed. So when the time came and we made the decision, okay, done with the Air Force and retiring from the Air Force, where are we going to go? We made the decision to come back here. We just loved it. There's so much about this state that I've been all over the world, and this state is just, there's too many special things with it.
Yeah.
And so therefore, that's how we ended up here, and that's why we're still here.
Yeah, it's nice, man.
We have it all here.
We got all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Equally.
Huge.
It's so
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. We haven't had no snow this year. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's
barely
been a
any.
mild winter for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but overall, you can't go wrong with Utah. I tell people too, like, I feel like the older and older I get, the more and more I fall in love with it, just because we have so much to offer here.
Right.
Not only the 4 seasons, but the people. How clean it is, the economy. I feel like we're growing so much here as well.
Yeah.
Which is no surprise to me that people are moving here from other states.
I know.
Um,
Mad rush from the West Coast coming here.
yep, here we go.
It's making our house prices increase tremendously.
It's amazing. Last 2 weekends, and I'll just throw this out real quick. Past 2 Saturdays, had 2 open houses, 2 different locations, and the first one, probably 60% of the people, we had over 100 people come through. Over 60% that I talked to came here from California.
Yep.
Wow.
Last weekend, probably about 45% of the people that I talked to are here from California.
Wow.
It's just it's mind blowing just how many
Wow.
people are exiting there and
Yeah.
heading up, coming in here.
So we're so happy to have you here, bro.
Thanks.
Really appreciate
Appreciate
you. We love having you on the team. We're so excited to open this up more for other agents who are looking, who are trying to come in here. I want to do another podcast soon. Daniel didn't delete the data from the other cards. So anyways, long story short, I'm gonna kill him. But I'm really happy that you were able to talk a little bit about yourself and about what you're doing here, because honestly, man, I'm thinking that this mentor-mentee is really gonna help so many people, so many people who otherwise wouldn't, they'd be stuck.
Right. No, I agree. I think something to be said about coming in and here you go. Here's your blueprint for, what you need to do your first year or so into business, how you get a foundation set for you.
Yeah, very important. Well, dude, thanks again for coming on. Let's
you
do this
bet, man.
again so we can dive deeper into Jeff and your experience in life, because you have a lot to share. Alan, dude, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
course,
I know
man.
this was short, but we look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George,